What's happening, people? The end of reality. So this is in reference to the virtual world, and especially I think what brought it up is the idea of emulation, and in reference to the emulation that AI does in order to learn things, and that feeds back into VR for us specifically. So I mean, the most dramatic thing, confusing thing about emulation and about the virtual world is that anything is possible and therefore nothing is real. And of course, nothing is real in the virtual world except, like, by definition, but except as the virtual world takes more of our time and energy, and has more of our focus, I guess. We've put more of our lives, education and entertainment and so on into this world. To say that the virtual world is not real becomes, I guess, it's almost debatable. It doesn't become it ceases to be a truism and becomes something else, something you have to argue for. I think reality is something that, as we get closer, we're getting closer to it as we build these non-real worlds, and thereby we are risking reality. It's always been this case. You need to risk something in order to really understand it, to really get close to it, and to there has to be some kind of risk involved, and it's almost like we're risking reality. But the positive is that we are able to understand it more, to get closer to it, to see what is it really. Just as with AI, we're getting closer to human, to what is human, what are we really. I think as you kind of imagine a virtual world that gets better and better, more and more detailed. Kind of like CGI. CGI back in the day, with a few exceptions, was pretty bad. But now it's hard to tell what's real and what's not, in some respects. And virtual reality, with that progression, it becomes like a living dream. To imagine a future in this context where we are in a living dream, I mean, it's the stuff of sci-fi. It's the stuff of, when it's done well, some of the best sci-fi, where you just don't know if the world you're in is real or not. And let's say we do know. It's clear. We put on the headset or whatever, and we know that it's not real, except it feels real. And to live in such a world, to operate in a world like that, it's and to give more to that, to give more of ourselves and our time and energy and society and all these kind of things, activities, functions of society to that world, it is to become lost. I think it's at the very least to enter a realm of potential chaos, as dramatic as that sounds, where ultimately you wonder what is human, what is an agent, what is real, of course, and what is power in this world. What is power, and what value does it have? Things start to break down, or the questions you can ask about it start to break down, just as the rules that govern it and the limitations. I think that's probably the key, the fact that the limitations break down. We have no higher governing force. There are no natural laws that we rely on, that we require. You think of it, a higher force coming down on us and forcing us to tell us what to do, and I think that's one kind of perspective on it. But more importantly, in this context, it's coming from the center and coming out this rock at the center, this unbreakable unbreakable law that all things can grow from, and that seems to disappear with a world such as the virtual world. Agency is lost. We have no support, and we cannot handle becoming gods. It's not in us, I think, which is a big statement, really, to say that being a god is not in us. I think if you project virtual reality further and further, I think it becomes obvious that we cannot handle a world where there is no stable ground to stand on. We need something that is beyond our control, that is beyond breaking. We need to have something that supports us. We need a God. And I think a virtual world, an emulated world, a world of our own creation is godless. More than, the classic statement by Nietzsche, God is dead. Perhaps there is no God, perhaps God did die. And as Nietzsche would say himself, out of that, a new God can be born. And I think out of a virtual world, God dies, and God never existed and cannot exist and will never be born in such a world. You could also say, an infinite amount of gods could be born and die. I think anarchy is inevitability in such a world, and that is probably the first step en route to the end. It's a little bit dramatic, but there you go. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.